Jesus taught that calm is a transformative force. His words guided troubled hearts, bringing peace amid chaos. Today, discover 8 powerful lessons that can change your life. Learn to face challenges with serenity and faith, but before I tell you, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. In this exact moment, as these words find your heart, something extraordinary is happening. Do you feel it? That restlessness, that sensation that something greater is about to happen in your life. It's not coincidence. This is the moment. God is speaking to you. For months, perhaps years, you have been ignoring the signs, that gentle voice that whispers in your moments of silence, that inexplicable impulse to seek something deeper, the recurring dreams that seem to want to communicate a message, the casual encounters that opened unexpected doors. All of this has been God preparing the ground for this precise moment. Just as Jesus calmed the turbulent waters with just a word, He desires to bring that same supernatural peace to your life. The first lesson that Jesus teaches us about calm is that it comes from recognizing His presence. When the disciples faced the storm, their fear disappeared not when the storm ceased, but when they recognized who was in the boat with them. You have been living amid emotional, financial, or relational turbulence. You have struggled to maintain composure while the waves of life threaten to submerge your faith. But today, at this precise moment, divine light breaks through those dense clouds that have obscured your vision. It's like a dawn after the longest and darkest of nights, the first rays of sun announcing that darkness has not prevailed and will not prevail. The second lesson from Jesus about calm is that it doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on your inner connection with the divine. When Jesus slept peacefully during the storm, He demonstrated a peace that transcended circumstances. That peace is available to you now. Just as a seed that remained dormant under the cold winter soil finally receives the necessary warmth to germinate, your soul is being awakened. The time of dormancy is over. The spiritual rebirth you have been waiting for is not just possible, it's happening now. Have you ever wondered why so many doors seemed closed? Why so many paths seemed blocked? It was because you were being preserved for this calling, for this moment. Like a craftsman who meticulously works on his masterpiece, the Creator has refined every detail of your life to prepare you for the purpose that is now being revealed. The third lesson about calm that Jesus teaches us is that it manifests when we accept His invitation to something greater. When Peter was called to walk on water, his initial calm came from trust in the calling. You are being called to step out of your comfort zone, to walk on unknown waters, but with the certainty that you are not alone. Do you feel the calling reverberating in your being? That sensation that you were created for something more, something extraordinary, that internal certainty that your struggles were not in vain but preparation. That is the Holy Spirit confirming that this message has your name written on it. The coincidences that brought you here are not random. The words you are reading now were destined for you since before time began. This is your kairos, the divine moment, when eternity touches the temporal, when heaven bends to intervene directly in your story. Today, something breaks in the spiritual realm. Those invisible chains that have limited your advancement are being shattered. That cloud of confusion that has obscured your vision is dissipating. That sensation of stagnation that has frustrated your dreams is giving way to a new impulse. Like the butterfly that emerges transformed after the necessary time in the cocoon, you're about to experience a level of freedom and purpose that you never imagined possible. The process may have been painful, the nights may have been long, but the metamorphosis is complete. It's time to open your wings and fly to the heights that have always been your destiny. Jesus not only calmed the storm, He transformed ordinary fishermen into extraordinary leaders who changed the course of history. His transformative touch is no less powerful today, and you are at the forefront of this divine intervention. If you feel an inexplicable connection with these words, if something inside you is responding to this call, know that it is not mere emotion. It is the Holy Spirit confirming that this message has your spiritual address. If you believe this message is for you, write in the comments, "I receive this blessing." Stop for a moment. Breathe deeply. Allow yourself to be fully present in this sacred space we have created together. As these words resonate in your spirit, I invite you to an inner journey, an honest exploration of the depths of your soul. Are you living the purpose for which you were created? This question echoes in the corridors of your heart, doesn't it? How many times have you felt that restlessness, that subtle discomfort, suggesting there is something more, something greater waiting for you? The fourth lesson Jesus teaches us about calm is that it comes when we align our life with our divine purpose. When we live according to our true calling, we experience a peace that the world cannot offer or take away. Imagine yourself before a spiritual mirror, not one that reflects your physical appearance, but one that reveals the truth of your inner being. What do you see? Perhaps you see unrealized potentials, dreams abandoned by the wayside, talents buried under layers of fear and doubt. Or perhaps you glimpse the outline of who you were destined to be, an image still nebulous, but undeniably present. Jesus frequently sought solitary places for prayer and reflection. In these moments of quietude, he renewed his connection with the Father and reaffirmed his purpose. The fifth lesson about calm that Jesus teaches us is that it flourishes in the fertile soil of self-knowledge and self-reflection. What has been preventing you from moving forward? Examine these barriers with compassionate honesty. Is it the fear of failure that paralyzes your steps when they are about to tread new paths? Is it the voice of self-criticism that whispers that you are not enough, not worthy, not prepared? Or is it the comforts of the known zone that, like golden chains, gently bind you to a life smaller than that to which you were called? The greatest prisons are not built with steel bars, but with limiting beliefs. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." The sixth lesson about calm is that it arises when we face our inner truths, however uncomfortable they may be. Think about the waters of your inner life. Are they agitated like a stormy sea, with waves of anxiety, worry, and fear incessantly beating against the shores of your peace? Or are they calm like a serene lake at dawn, clearly reflecting the light of heaven? Jesus did not promise an absence of storms, but offered a peace that transcends circumstances. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." How many times have you sought this peace from external sources, recognition, relationships, possessions, entertainment? Sources that, like cracked cisterns, cannot retain the water of true satisfaction. The authentic peace that Jesus offers springs from within, like an inexhaustible fountain that doesn't dry up even in the most arid seasons of life. This is a moment of sacred honesty. Standing before that spiritual mirror, do you recognize areas where you have compromised your deepest values? Where you have chosen the path of convenience instead of the path of integrity? Where you have allowed fear, not faith, to drive your decisions? The seventh lesson from Jesus about calm is that it requires inner truth. When he confronted the money changers in the temple, his action was not a loss of calm, but an authentic expression of zeal for truth and integrity. True calm is not passivity. It is peace grounded in truth. Perhaps you have walked through dark valleys. Perhaps you have faced devastating losses, painful betrayals, humiliating failures. These experiences have left marks on your soul, scars that still hurt when touched. But know that none of these wounds were wasted. Like the potter who repairs a broken vessel with gold, transforming the cracks into lines of beauty, the divine has used your wounds to create in you a unique capacity for compassion, empathy, and wisdom. Recall the moments when you persevered, despite the pain, when you chose faith even when all seemed lost, when you took one more step even though your strength was exhausted. In those moments, perhaps without realizing it, you were being forged, like gold purified by fire, for this time, for this purpose. The eighth and final lesson that Jesus teaches us about calm is that it deepens through the storms of life. Each trial you faced was not just a test, but a teacher. Each challenge overcome was not just a victory, but a step to a new spiritual height. Look inward. Recognize the strength that dwells in you. Honor the journey that brought you here. And prepare yourself, for the inner awakening you are experiencing now is just the prelude to a divine symphony that is about to be performed through your life. If you have gone through difficulties but never lost faith, comment, "I am strong, and I will overcome." Now is the moment of truth, the moment when your faith will be tested not just in words but in actions, the moment when you will decide whether to remain on the shore, watching the waves of opportunity pass by, or to launch into the deep waters of the unknown, trusting in the one who calms the storms. The battle you face today is not against flesh and blood. It's not against that difficult person at your work. It's not against unfavorable economic circumstances. It's not against the concerning medical diagnosis. These are just visible manifestations of an invisible war being waged for your destiny. Remember how Jesus faced his trials. In the desert, when tempted by the enemy, he didn't argue or hesitate. He responded with the word. When questioned by the Pharisees, he didn't allow himself to be intimidated. He remained firm in his mission. When faced with the cross, he didn't back down. He embraced the sacrifice out of love. In each challenge, his inner calm remained unshakable because it was anchored in something greater than the immediate circumstances. You are at a spiritual crossroads. On one side, the familiar path of comfortable mediocrity, predictable, safe, free from the risks of faith. On the other, the path of the extraordinary, uncertain, challenging, but aligned with your divine calling. The choice you make today will determine not just your tomorrow, but the generations that will come after you. Think of Joseph, sold as a slave by his own brothers, falsely accused, unjustly imprisoned. For years, each new morning seemed to bring only confirmation that his dreams had died. But in the dark dungeons of Egypt, his faith was purified, his character was molded, his capacity to forgive was expanded. And when the moment of elevation finally came, he was prepared to administer not just a kingdom, but the salvation of entire nations. Or consider Esther, an ordinary young woman who suddenly found herself in a position of royal influence. When the moment of crisis came, she faced a choice: remain silent and protect her own life, or risk everything for the salvation of her people. Her words resonate through the centuries. "If I perish, I perish." This act of courage changed not just her destiny, but the course of history. And what of David confronting Goliath while experienced warriors trembled with fear? Or of Daniel maintaining his integrity even in the face of the lion's den? Or of Paul declaring, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," from inside a Roman cell? These are not just inspiring stories. They are prophetic testimonies speaking directly to your current situation. The same strength that empowered these heroes of faith dwells in you. The same God who opened paths for them is working in your favor right now. The battle you face may seem impossible to human eyes. The voices around you may be suggesting that you give up, that you accept limitations, that you lower your expectations. Even your inner voice may be whispering doubts. Who am I to believe in something so great? Who am I to expect a miracle? But at this moment, something greater is speaking over your life, just as when Jesus commanded, "Peace, be still," to the furious sea, and immediately the waters calmed. He is pronouncing peace over the storms that have been agitating your soul. He is declaring enough to the forces that have been opposing your advancement. This is the moment to take a stand, to declare like Joshua before Jericho, "Choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." To proclaim, like Elijah on Mount Carmel, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him." The battle has already been won in the spiritual realm, but you need to position yourself to receive that victory in the natural realm. You need to rise up with renewed determination, assume your spiritual authority, and advance against the walls that have blocked your path. When Jesus calmed the storm, he first rebuked the disciples for their lack of faith. Why? Because he knew that the true battle was not against the elements, but against the fear that had taken hold in their hearts. In the same way, your real battle is not against external circumstances, but against the fear, doubt, and disbelief that have limited your vision. Today is the day of the turning point. The day when you refuse to be defined by your past limitations. The day when you reject the labels that others have placed on you. The day when you claim the identity and purpose for which you were created. Just as the father of the demon-possessed son who cried out to Jesus, "I believe, help my unbelief," you can come with your imperfect faith. You don't need to wait until all doubts disappear. Come as you are, with your faith mixed with fear, with your certainties intertwined with questions. Jesus honors even the smallest seed of faith. The spiritual battle you face requires persistence. Like the persistent widow in Jesus' parable, who didn't give up until she received justice, you are called to persevere in prayer. Like the importunate friend who knocked at the door until he received bread, you are called to continue knocking until the doors open. This is not the time for half measures. It's not the time for timid commitments or cautious prayers. It's time to cry out like Jacob, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." It's time to declare, even if your voice trembles, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." Lift your eyes above the circumstances. See beyond the visible to the invisible. Recognize that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Remember that if God is for us, who can be against us? Declare now with faith, "My blessing has already arrived." Something extraordinary is happening at this exact moment. Can you feel it? It's like that first cool breeze after a long and suffocating summer. It's like the first ray of sunlight breaking through dense clouds after days of incessant storm. It's the moment of transformation, not a distant promise for an uncertain future, but a palpable reality that is already manifesting in your life. Is your heart beating faster now? Is there an inexplicable energy coursing through your being? That sensation is not your imagination. It's your soul responding to the spiritual reality that is unfolding. Like when Jesus touched the eyes of the blind man of Bethsaida, and first he saw people like trees walking around. Before seeing with total clarity, you are in the process of having your spiritual vision restored in stages. What before seemed impossible is now beginning to take shape on the horizon of your possibilities. The chains that have kept you limited for so long, they are breaking now. Do you hear them? The metallic sound of ancient shackles falling to the ground. Those negative thought patterns that whispered, "You can't, you don't deserve, and it's too late," they are losing their power over your mind. Like Paul and Silas in the Philippian prison, your praise amidst difficulties is causing a supernatural tremor that opens all closed doors. The walls that blocked your advancement, they are crumbling at this moment. Like the walls of Jericho that collapsed not by the force of weapons, but by the power of obedience and praise, the obstacles that seemed insurmountable are being reduced to dust before your eyes. That opportunity that seemed out of reach, it's coming toward you. That relationship that seemed irreparably broken, it's being restored. That health that seemed permanently compromised, it's being renewed, cell by cell. The paths that seemed non-existent, they are opening now. Like the Red Sea that divided before the people of Israel, creating a passage where before there was only an impossible barrier, new avenues of progress are emerging in your life. You are seeing doors open without having to force them. You are experiencing divine coincidences, those casual encounters, those unexpected connections, those ideas that arise at the exact moment. Jesus often spoke about the kingdom of God using the metaphor of seeds, small beginnings that contain within themselves the potential for enormous transformations. What is happening in your life now may seem small to natural eyes, a subtle shift in perspective, a modest new opportunity, an almost imperceptible improvement in a challenging situation. But in that small beginning is the DNA of a complete transformation. The transformation you are experiencing is not just external, but primarily internal. Your faith is strengthening, not as a theoretical concept, but as a living force that shapes your decisions, your reactions, your worldview. Your confidence is growing, not the false confidence based on your own abilities, but the authentic confidence anchored in the faithfulness of the one who made the promises. Are you feeling that unusual peace, that calm amidst the storm? It's the same supernatural peace that Jesus demonstrated by sleeping peacefully in the stern of the boat, while the winds howled and the waves threatened. I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. This is not a peace that depends on circumstances. It's a peace that transcends and transforms circumstances. Are you noticing a new mental clarity? Thoughts that were once confused and contradictory now align in coherent patterns. Decisions that seemed impossible now present themselves with surprising clarity. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is not an abstract process, but a tangible reality that you are experiencing now. Observe how your perspective is changing. Situations that once seemed catastrophes are now seen as opportunities for growth. People who were once viewed as adversaries are now recognized as divine instruments for your refinement. What once seemed a painful detour in your journey now reveals itself as an essential part of the path to your destiny. Jesus not only calmed the external storm, he brought peace to the terrified hearts of the disciples. Similarly, the transformation occurring in your life is not just a change of circumstances, but a profound reorientation of your inner being. Notice how your priorities are naturally readjusting. What once seemed so crucial, the approval of others, status, material possessions, now finds its proper place in the hierarchy of values. What truly matters, authentic relationships, integrity, eternal purpose, emerges with renewed clarity. Your capacity to forgive is expanding. Old hurts that seemed destined to be carried forever are now released with surprising ease. Like Jesus, who, even on the cross, could say, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." You discover in yourself a supernatural capacity for forgiveness that brings freedom not just to others, but primarily to yourself. There is a new sense of purpose energizing your steps. The chronic fatigue that drained your motivation is being replaced by an inner vigor that cannot be explained by natural factors alone. Like the widow of Zarephath, who found inexplicable resources in a time of scarcity, you are discovering reserves of strength you didn't know you possessed. Your relationships are being transformed. Conversations that were once superficial now reach deeper levels of connection. Conflicts that seemed irreconcilable now find unexpected paths to resolution. Like Jesus, who transformed casual encounters into moments of healing and restoration, your everyday interactions are imbued with a transformative power. This transformation is not the result of your effort or merit. It is a gift of divine grace. Like the bent woman whom Jesus healed on the Sabbath, you are being liberated not because of your perfection, but despite your imperfections. What is happening in your life is a testimony not to your power, but to the power of the one who makes all things new. The transformation you are experiencing now is just the beginning. Like the small stream that becomes a mighty river, like the small flame that becomes a consuming fire, this turning point contains the potential for a complete revolution in every dimension of your existence. If you feel your change has begun now, comment, "I am ready to live the new." Rise up and look around you with new eyes. The landscape of your life is changing. What once seemed an exhausting battlefield is now transforming into fertile ground for your future. Victory is not just a distant possibility, it is your present reality. See how the pieces of the divine puzzle are fitting together. Those disconnected experiences, those seemingly random encounters, those unexpected detours in your path. Everything is converging in a pattern of perfection that could only have been orchestrated by divine wisdom. As Joseph could declare to the brothers who sold him as a slave, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." You can now look back and see the providential hand guiding even your most challenging moments. The victory that Jesus won was not just personal, but universal. Similarly, the triumph you are experiencing will not just benefit you, but will impact generations. Like waves that expand when a stone is thrown into the water, the transformation in your life is generating repercussions that will reach people you don't even know yet. Observe the signs of the new season that is blossoming in your life. Like the almond trees that bloom first in spring, announcing the end of winter, tangible manifestations of renewal are emerging in all areas. That creativity that was sleeping is awakening with fresh ideas. That passion that had cooled is being rekindled with new purpose. Those relationships that seemed stagnant are being revitalized with renewed energy. The doors that for so long remained closed now open before you without effort. You are experiencing the fulfillment of the promise. I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Opportunities you didn't even ask for are appearing in your path. Connections you couldn't have planned are forming naturally. Resources that seemed inaccessible now present themselves at the exact moment of need. The light that now radiates from your life is not temporary or superficial. It is the permanent glow of a profound transformation. Like Moses, whose face shone after being in the divine presence, you carry the luminosity of an authentic encounter with the sacred. People around you may not name what they see, but they will feel the difference. Some will be attracted to this light. Others may even move away uncomfortable with its brightness. Both reactions are confirmations of the reality of your transformation. This victory does not mean an absence of future challenges, but a new ability to face them. Jesus was honest when he said, "In this world you will have trouble," but he completed it with the victorious guarantee, "But take heart, I have overcome the world." You will face new tests, new valleys, new mountains, but you will face them with a more robust faith, a deeper peace, and a clarity of purpose that transforms each obstacle into opportunity. Your identity is being solidified not in passing titles or temporary achievements, but in your eternal connection with the Creator. Like Jesus, whose baptism was followed by the declaration, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased," you are receiving a renewed confirmation of your intrinsic value, independent of your performances or failures. The fear that was once your constant companion now recedes before the strengthening faith. Not that you will never feel fear again, but it will no longer govern your decisions. Like David, who faced Goliath despite the trembling in his young legs, you learn to advance even when fear whispers, "Retreat." Like Esther, who presented herself before the king even under threat of death, you discover the courage to risk when the purpose is greater than the danger. Your wounds haven't magically disappeared, but they are being redeemed. Like the marks on the hands of the resurrected Christ, they are no longer sources of pain, but testimonies of overcoming. What the enemy planned for your destruction is being transformed into a platform for your testimony. The same mouth that once pronounced laments now declares praises. The same hands that once raised in despair now elevate in worship. This is the moment to fully receive, to completely embrace what is being offered. Like Mary, who said, "May it be to me according to your word," open yourself to receive without reservations. Like the blind man of Jericho who threw aside his cloak, symbol of his previous identity as a beggar, to run to meet Jesus, abandon the limitations of the past to embrace your new destiny. The healing that flowed from Jesus' hands to the woman with the issue of blood is flowing to every wounded area of your life. The restoration he brought to the demon-possessed man of Gadara is reaching every fragmented aspect of your existence. The forgiveness he offered to the sinful woman is washing every stain of guilt and shame. This victory is not just spiritual or emotional. It is integral. Your body is being aligned with divine health. Your mind is being renewed with divine truth. Your relationships are being restored with divine love. Your finances are being ordered with divine provision. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. When Jesus taught about calm amid the storm, he not only demonstrated power over the natural elements, but revealed a supernatural dimension of peace available to all who trust. That peace now establishes itself in your life like a permanent river, flowing even when the winds of adversity blow. Look to the horizon, not with apprehension, but with expectation. Like Abraham, who lifted his eyes to contemplate the promised land, you now glimpse the unlimited possibilities that open before you. Like Caleb, who at 85 years old could still declare, "Give me this mountain," you receive renewed strength to conquer territories that once seemed unreachable. This is not a temporary or partial victory. It is complete, comprehensive, irreversible. It is the fulfillment of the promise. But thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. It is the realization of the prophetic declaration, We are more than conquerors through him who loved us. The joy that now springs from within you is not superficial or fleeting. It is deep, lasting, unshakable. Like Jesus, who, for the joy set before him, endured the cross, scorning its shame, you discover a source of joy that transcends circumstances and persists even in challenging moments. You are entering a new journey, not just a modification of the old one, but an entirely new path. Like the disciples who left their nets to follow a greater calling, you are being invited to abandon the familiar, to embrace the extraordinary. Like Paul, whose encounter on the road to Damascus completely redirected his life, you experience a radical reorientation of purpose. The promises that seemed distant now materialize before your eyes. The dreams that had been dormant in your heart now take wing and rise to reality. The purpose that was nebulous now crystallizes with revealing clarity. If you receive this word in your heart, write, "My victory is certain." We have reached the decisive moment, the moment that will transform this message from mere inspiring words into a catalyzing force for real change in your life. Because the truth is this: all the power of this revelation, all the beauty of this promise, all the greatness of this calling will remain only as potential until you make a conscious decision to act. In this sacred moment, I want to invite you to a deep and meaningful pause. Close your eyes now and imagine your transformed life. Visualize each area restored, each relationship harmonized, each purpose fulfilled. Imagine your mind light, your heart at peace, and your soul renewed. Breathe deeply and feel that energy. This is already happening to you. Notice how, even with your eyes closed, you can feel a presence of peace enveloping you. This is not an exercise in empty imagination. It is a conscious alignment with the spiritual reality that is already in motion in your life. As Jesus taught his disciples, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. When Jesus calmed the storm, he not only demonstrated power, he taught a profound lesson about inner calm that remains unshakable even amid outer chaos. This calm is not a denial of the reality of life's storms, but a secure anchor that keeps you firm while the winds blow. As you open your eyes again, you return to this moment with a new clarity, the clarity that comes from recognizing that you are on the threshold of a new era. Like Moses before the burning bush, you are on sacred ground, a meeting point between the divine and the human, between potential and manifestation, between promise and fulfillment. But what does this call to action mean in practical terms? It's not a one-size-fits-all formula, because your path is unique. For some, it will mean a radical decision for change, abandoning a toxic relationship, starting a new venture, completely changing careers, reconciling with a distant family member. For others, it will be a subtle but profound adjustment, a new prioritization of values, a redirection of energy, a renewal of commitment to long-established purposes. The calm that Jesus demonstrated and taught is not passivity. It is a powerful serenity that grounds decisive actions. When he confronted the merchants in the temple, when he confronted the hypocritical Pharisees, when he healed on the Sabbath, contrary to traditions, he demonstrated that true inner peace empowers for courageous outer actions. This is your moment of courage, the moment to say, like Joshua, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." The moment to declare, like Isaiah, "Here am I, send me." The moment to affirm, like Mary, "May it be to me according to your word." Identify the first concrete step you can take today. Perhaps it's a difficult conversation that needs to happen. Perhaps it's a request for forgiveness that needs to be offered. Perhaps it's a health decision that needs to be implemented. Perhaps it's a creative project that needs to be started. Perhaps it's simply a renewed commitment to daily gratitude and prayer. Don't underestimate the power of small beginnings. As Jesus taught through the parable of the mustard seed, humblest beginnings contain the potential for extraordinary growth. That small step of faith, that seemingly insignificant decision, that subtle change of attitude, can be the catalyst for monumental transformations. The calm that Jesus taught is not a distant goal to be achieved after years of spiritual practice. It is a gift available now in the midst of the imperfect circumstances of your real life. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. This peace does not depend on ideal external conditions. It flourishes precisely amid the imperfections and challenges of your daily life. Perhaps you are thinking, this message touched my heart, but I have failed so many times before. How can I be sure that this time will be different? The difference lies in the source of the transformation. It's not about another human effort doomed to exhaustion, but a surrender to a supernatural work that works in you and through you. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. Remember that you are not alone in this journey. Just as Jesus promised the disciples, "And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age," there is a constant presence guiding your steps, strengthening your determination, renewing your hope when the path seems too long. The calm that Jesus demonstrated in the boat during the storm was not indifference. It was absolute confidence. He wasn't oblivious to the reality of the storm. He was anchored in a greater reality. Similarly, the calm you are learning is not an escape from the challenging circumstances of life, but a secure anchor that keeps you stable while facing each challenge. Take a moment now to reflect on the 8 lessons of calm that Jesus taught. First lesson, calm comes from recognizing the divine presence in your life. Second lesson, calm doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on your inner connection. Third lesson, calm manifests when we accept the invitation to something greater. Fourth lesson, calm comes when we align our life with our divine purpose. Fifth lesson, calm flourishes in the fertile soil of self-knowledge and self-reflection. Sixth lesson, calm arises when we face our inner truths. Seventh lesson, calm requires inner truth and authenticity. Eighth lesson, calm deepens through the storms of life. Each of these lessons is not just a concept to be intellectually understood, but a practice to be incorporated into your daily life. Each challenge you face is an opportunity to apply these lessons, to develop a calm that will not only withstand storms, but will flourish precisely because of them. This is your moment, the moment to transform knowledge into action, inspiration into transformation, hope into reality. The moment to honor not just what you heard, but what you felt awakening in your spirit. The journey ahead will be unique as you are. There will be moments of glorious advancement and moments of challenging difficulty. There will be days of crystalline clarity and days of nebulous uncertainty. But through all of this, the calm you have learned will remain as a secure anchor, a reliable compass, a guiding light. Take this message not just in your mind but in your heart. Share it not just in words but in actions. Live it not just in selected moments but as a new way of being. Share this message with someone who needs to hear this today. The transformative journey you have begun is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of renewal. Like the waters of a river that flow constantly, bringing new life at every moment, the calm that Jesus taught is a daily practice, a choice renewed each dawn. Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. This daily renewal begins the moment you open your eyes. Before touching your phone, before mentally listing the day's tasks, before even putting your feet on the floor, you have the opportunity to establish the tone for your entire day with a simple declaration of gratitude. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Think about the way Jesus began His days. The Gospels tell us that very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where He prayed. Even the Son of God, whose connection with the Father was perfect, prioritized these moments of intentional renewal. How much more will you need this daily alignment? The 9th lesson Jesus teaches us about calm is that it requires intentional and disciplined cultivation. Calm is not a characteristic you either possess or don't possess by nature. It's a practice you develop day by day, moment by moment. Like a patient gardener who prepares the soil, plants the seeds, removes the weeds, and awaits the harvest time, You are cultivating a serenity that will grow stronger and deeper with each season of life. Observe the subtle but profound difference that is already occurring in the way you respond to daily challenges. That irritation in traffic that once triggered a wave of frustration is now received with a calm sigh and a broader perspective. That unjust criticism that once boiled your blood is now filtered through a more compassionate understanding of human limitations. That disappointment that once seemed to demolish your hopes is now seen as a redirection to something better. The 10th lesson Jesus teaches us about calm is that it creates space between stimulus and response. When the Pharisees tried to trap him with captious questions, he didn't react impulsively. He created a space for reflection, sometimes even writing in the sand before responding. This sacred pause is one of the greatest gifts of true calm, the space to choose your response instead of being governed by automatic reactions. Each morning is a new opportunity to renew your decision to live from this center of peace. Just as the Israelites needed to gather manna daily, they couldn't store it for the next day. You cannot live today on the peace you experienced yesterday. Peace needs to be renewed, gathered, received again each dawn. This renewal doesn't happen automatically. It requires intentional practice. Just as an athlete must train daily to maintain and improve physical condition, you need to exercise your spiritual muscles through practices like prayer, gratitude, meditation on scripture, contemplative silence, and acts of kindness. The 11th lesson about calm that Jesus teaches us is that it flourishes through consistent spiritual practices. Observe how even Jesus, in his perfect humanity, regularly sought these moments of renewal. After feeding the 5,000, he dismissed the crowd and went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. After an intense period of ministry, he told the disciples, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." This wasn't an optional luxury, it was an essential necessity. Not all days will be easy. There will be mornings when you wake with the weight of worries, with the shadow of unresolved problems, with the echo of painful words. On these days, renewal won't come as a spontaneous feeling, but as a deliberate choice. Like David, who, in moments of despair, said to himself, "Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why, so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God." Daily renewal is not a denial of life's real challenges. It's a repositioning that allows you to face them from a place of inner strength. Jesus never promised an absence of problems. He promised his presence amid the problems. "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." The 12th lesson about calm that Jesus teaches us is that it's not the absence of storms, but the presence of an anchor when storms come. Like the eagle that renews itself by soaring above the storm to find higher and more tranquil air currents, you'll learn to rise above circumstances through the daily renewal of your mind. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This renewal is not a one-time event, but a continuous process, like breathing, like the beating of the heart, like the flow of blood in the veins. You'll notice that with this practice, your ability to maintain calm in challenging situations gradually increases. What once deeply disturbed you now only causes a ripple on the surface of your peace. What once required hours or days to recover equilibrium now requires only moments. Like the musician who, through daily practice, transforms conscious movements into natural reflexes, you're developing spiritual reflexes of peace and serenity. This daily renewal doesn't just benefit you, it radiates to all around you. Like a stone thrown into a lake creates waves that expand in ever-widening circles. Your personal peace influences your family, your co-workers, your friends, even strangers with whom you briefly interact. In a world hungry for genuine peace, your serenity becomes both a refuge and an invitation for others. Remember that this renewal is a gradual process, not an instant transformation. There will be days of great clarity and days of confusion, moments of deep serenity and moments of disturbing agitation. This doesn't mean failure, it's simply part of the growth process. As Jesus taught through the parable of the leaven, some of the most profound transformations occur slowly, almost imperceptibly, until one day you look back and barely recognize the person you used to be. Daily renewal transforms not just how you feel, but how you see. Your spiritual eyes become more sensitive to beauty, your ears more attentive to truth, your heart more responsive to love. Like Jesus, who could see value in the despised, potential in the flawed, and hope in the desperate, you develop a vision that sees beyond appearances. This renewal is both a gift to be received and a discipline to be practiced. Like breathing, partly automatic, partly intentional. In moments when renewal seems distant, when calm seems impossible, remember Jesus' words to the disciples. The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of God has been given to you. You have access to a dimension of peace that transcends human understanding. As you continue this practice of daily renewal, you'll notice a subtle but profound shift in your own identity. You'll begin to define yourself not by your successes or failures, not by your possessions or titles, not by your relationships or functions, but by your connection with the eternal source of peace. This is the 13th lesson about calm that Jesus teaches us. It becomes not just something you practice, but something you are. If you are willing to practice this daily renewal, comment, "I choose peace each day." Something extraordinary happens when calm establishes itself as the gravitational center of your life. Like a healthy tree that naturally produces fruit in its season, the inner peace you're cultivating begins to manifest tangible results in all dimensions of your existence. Jesus spoke about this when he said, "By their fruit you will recognize them." A life centered in the peace he taught produces unmistakable fruits. The first fruit you'll notice is renewed mental clarity. The clouds of anxiety that obscured your thinking are dissipating, allowing you to see situations with crystalline perspective. Decisions that once seemed oppressively complex now present themselves with clearly defined paths. Problems that seemed unsolvable now reveal creative approaches you couldn't see when your mind was agitated. Jesus demonstrated this clarity in every interaction, even the most challenging ones. When they tried to trap him with the woman caught in adultery, his response reflected not confusion or panic, but a transcendent wisdom born of his perfect inner peace. The 14th lesson about calm that Jesus teaches us is that it generates mental clarity, an ability to think beyond the limitations of fear and anxiety. The second fruit that springs from inner peace is improved physical health. Are you already noticing this? Those frequent headaches begin to diminish. That chronic tension in your shoulders begins to relax. That digestive disturbance begins to balance. Your sleep becomes deeper and more restorative. Your immune system strengthens. The mind-body connection that modern science finally recognizes was understood by Jesus 2 millennia ago, when he frequently addressed both the physical and spiritual aspects of healing. The third fruit is a transformed relationship with time. The chronic rush, the perpetual sensation of always being late, always running, always one step behind, is being replaced by a new experience of temporal sufficiency. Like Jesus, who never seemed hurried even when crowds pressed him with urgent needs, you're learning to walk through your days instead of running breathlessly trying to reach an ever-distant horizon. This doesn't mean you do less. Paradoxically, it often means you accomplish more. But you accomplish from a center of calm, not frantic agitation. Like Jesus, who in just 3 years of public ministry made an impact that echoes through millennia, you discover that true effectiveness doesn't come from hurry, but from full presence in each moment, each task, each encounter. The fourth fruit is an expanded capacity for genuine love. When you're not constantly drained by anxiety, worry, and fear, you discover reserves of compassion, patience, and kindness you didn't know you possessed. Relationships that were characterized by irritation and conflict begin to exhibit new patterns of understanding and acceptance. Jesus directly connected inner peace with our capacity to love when he said, "Peace I leave with you. Love one another as I have loved you." The fifth fruit is awakened creativity. Innovative ideas, elegant solutions, artistic expressions, original insights, all flow more freely when your mind isn't congested with worries. Jesus, the greatest creative who ever lived, constantly surprised his listeners with unexpected metaphors, memorable illustrations, and revolutionary approaches. This divine creativity becomes accessible when you operate from the calm he exemplified. The sixth fruit is expanded courage. Not the false courage of bravado or impulsivity, but authentic courage born of inner certainty. You surprise yourself by taking stands you would have previously avoided, initiating conversations you would have feared, taking on challenges that would have intimidated you. Like Peter, who trembled with fear before Pentecost but later fearlessly declared truth before the same authorities who crucified his master, you discover that inner peace is the cradle of true courage. The seventh fruit is deeper gratitude. Your eyes open to blessings that were always present but went unnoticed when your attention was consumed by worries and fears. Like the 10 lepers healed by Jesus, of whom only one returned to give thanks, you choose to be part of the conscious minority that recognizes and celebrates daily gifts. This gratitude, in turn, further feeds your inner peace, creating a virtuous cycle of contentment and serenity. The eighth fruit is expanded influence. Without any conscious effort on your part, you become a center of calm amid chaos, a beacon of hope amid despair, a voice of wisdom amid confusion. People begin to gravitate toward you, not necessarily for what you say or do, but for what you are. A presence anchored in something deeper and truer than the passing agitations of the world. Jesus described this as being salt of the earth and light of the world. The ninth fruit is expanded consciousness. Your perception extends beyond the obvious, beyond the superficial, beyond the immediate. You begin to discern broader patterns, deeper connections, richer meanings. Like Jesus, who could see beyond appearances to the essential truth of each situation, you develop a capacity to see the invisible, to hear the unspoken, to understand the heart of matters. The 10th fruit is authentic freedom. Inner peace dissolves the invisible prisons that limited your movements, the fear of rejection, the need for approval, the tyranny of expectations, the slavery to others' opinions. As Jesus promised, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. This freedom isn't license for selfish indulgence, but capacity for authentic alignment with your highest purpose. The 11th fruit is a transformed presence. There's a quality in your presence that communicates more than words, that influences more than actions. It's the same quality that made multitudes follow Jesus, that made children run to his arms, that made sufferers seek just to touch his garment. This presence cannot be manufactured or falsified. It's the natural result of genuine inner peace. The 12th fruit is unshakable hope. Not naive optimism that denies difficulties, nor resigned passivity that accepts injustices, but authentic hope that sees beyond present circumstances to divine possibilities. Like Jesus, who even facing the cross could speak of joy and victory, you develop a capacity to maintain confidence even when winds seem contrary, even when the path seems blocked, even when the night seems long. This is how the inner calm that Jesus taught becomes not just a personal experience, but a transformative force that flows through you to a world thirsty for authentic peace. These aren't fruits you need to force or manufacture. They're the natural results of a life centered in peace that transcends understanding. If you're already experiencing these fruits in your life, comment, "The fruits of peace are growing in me." Even as you advance in this transformation journey, you'll encounter obstacles along the way. As Jesus warned his disciples, in this world you will have trouble. These challenges aren't evidence of failure or abandonment. They're opportunities to deepen and strengthen the calm being cultivated within you. The first obstacle many face is persistent anxiety. Those circular thoughts that insist on projecting catastrophic scenarios, that tension in your chest that appears without warning, that sensation that something terrible is about to happen. Jesus directly addressed this obstacle when he said, "Do not worry about tomorrow. Each day has enough trouble of its own." This isn't a simplistic order to stop worrying. It's an invitation to a transformative practice of presence. When anxiety arises, and it will, you can gently bring your attention back to the present moment, to the only place where peace can be found. Not in yesterday that's already passed, not in tomorrow that hasn't yet come, but in the now that is the only real point of contact with life and with the divine. The second obstacle is unresolved resentment. Those old hurts that still ache when touched, those injustices that still provoke indignation when remembered, those betrayals that still cause a knot in your stomach. Jesus understood the corrosive power of resentment on our inner peace, which is why he taught, "If you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins." The forgiveness Jesus teaches isn't a denial of pain, nor an excuse for abuse. It's an act of liberation, primarily for yourself. In releasing resentment, you aren't saying what happened was acceptable. You're saying you refuse to allow it to continue taking space in your heart and mind. Like someone who lets go of a rope in a tug of war, you discover that peace is possible even when the other person continues pulling. The third obstacle is constant comparison. That tendency to measure your life against seemingly perfect lives you see on social media. That inner voice insisting you're never enough, never have enough, never do enough. Jesus addressed this when he said, "Do not worry saying, 'What shall we eat?' or 'What shall we drink?' or 'What shall we wear?' For the pagans run after all these things. Comparison is the thief of joy and the killer of peace. When you compare, your complete reality, with all its struggles, challenges, and imperfections, with the edited and curated version others present to the world, you create an inner battlefield where peace cannot flourish. The practice of conscious gratitude is the antidote to this poison of comparison, recognizing and celebrating what you have instead of lamenting what you don't have. The fourth obstacle is constant noise. The incessant bombardment of information, notifications, stimuli, and distractions that characterizes modern life. Jesus recognized the need to escape the noise when he withdrew to a solitary place to pray. In a world that rarely falls silent, creating spaces of quietude has become not a luxury but a necessity for anyone seeking to cultivate inner peace. This doesn't mean you need to withdraw to a monastery. It means creating small sanctuaries of silence in your daily life. Perhaps it's 10 minutes before the house wakes up. Perhaps it's the commute to work without radio or podcast. Perhaps it's a walk without a cell phone. Perhaps it's the last moment before sleep. In these sacred spaces of quietude, the voice of peace can be heard above the noise of the world. The fifth obstacle is subtly seductive materialism, the belief that just a little more money, more success, more recognition, more possessions, will finally bring the peace you seek. Jesus exposed this illusion when he said, "Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. And what good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" The true peace Jesus taught was never a commodity that could be bought, sold, or accumulated. It's a state of being that flourishes precisely when we free ourselves from the tyranny of more. The practice of contentment, the ability to say this is enough, creates the fertile soil where peace can grow deeply rooted. The sixth obstacle is paralyzing perfectionism, that critical inner voice insisting nothing you do is good enough, finding flaws in every accomplishment, maintaining impossible standards. Jesus never demanded perfection from his followers. He called rough fishermen, corrupt tax collectors, temperamental zealots. His message wasn't, "Be perfect and then come to me," but "Come to me and find rest for your souls." The practice of self-compassion, treating yourself with the same gentleness and understanding you would offer a dear friend, dissolves the perfectionism that robs your peace. As Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." Words that markedly contrast with the heavy yoke and crushing burden that perfectionism places on your own shoulders. The seventh obstacle is chronic hurry, the sensation of always running, always being late, always one step behind where you should be. Jesus never exhibited this frantic agitation, even when confronted with urgent needs. When Lazarus was dying, the disciples were perplexed because Jesus didn't immediately rush to his side. When a hungry multitude needed feeding, he first had them sit down in orderly fashion. His life demonstrates that true calm isn't determined by external circumstances, but by an inner center anchored in eternity. The practice of full presence, giving complete attention to one thing at a time, is the antidote to the tyranny of hurry. Paradoxically, this presence often makes us more efficient, not less. Like Jesus, whose earthly life lasted only 33 years, but whose impact transcends millennia, you discover that depth of presence multiplies the effectiveness of your actions. The eighth obstacle is fear of the unknown future. Worries about what might happen, anxieties about how you'll handle challenges not yet materialized, what-if scenarios that rob your present peace. Jesus addressed this obstacle when he said, "Do not be afraid," one of the most repeated phrases in Scripture, not because the future contains no real challenges, but because we can face that unknown future from a place of trust rather than terror. The practice of surrendering the future, recognizing that despite all prudent planning, much of what will come is beyond our control, frees you to live fully in the only moment you truly possess, now. As Jesus taught, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." These obstacles aren't enemies to be fought with brute force, but teachers to be faced with wisdom and compassion. Each time you recognize an obstacle to your peace, each time you practice a conscious response instead of an automatic reaction, you strengthen the spiritual muscles that sustain true calm. If you're determined to overcome these obstacles to inner calm, comment, "I choose peace above every obstacle." At the culmination of this transformative journey, a profound truth emerges. The peace you're cultivating isn't just for you. Like waves expanding when a stone is thrown into still waters, the calm being established in your heart extends far beyond the limits of your personal experience. You're creating a legacy of peace that will touch lives you may never know, influence generations you may never see. Jesus alluded to this expansive nature of peace when he told the disciples, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." The calm you're cultivating isn't a treasure to be selfishly hoarded, but a transformative force that naturally influences your environment. Without any conscious effort on your part, your simple presence begins to alter the atmosphere of the spaces you occupy. Think about the people in your life, family, friends, colleagues, neighbors. Perhaps many of them have never experienced the true peace Jesus taught. Perhaps they've accepted chronic anxiety, persistent stress, and constant fear as normal. Perhaps they've concluded that true peace is an unattainable fantasy, a beautiful but impractical concept in the real world. Your life is becoming a living refutation of this lie. Each time you respond calmly to a provocation, each time you maintain your serenity in chaotic circumstances, each time you demonstrate quiet confidence when others succumb to panic, you're creating a new model of possibility for those around you. Like Jesus, whose example of supernatural peace both confused and fascinated those accustomed only to the false peace of the world, your life becomes a living demonstration of a different path. The children in your life are particularly sensitive to this legacy. They absorb not just what you say about peace, but how you embody it or don't in your daily life. When they observe you responding with tranquil calm to a setback, when they witness your capacity to forgive rather than resent, when they experience the atmosphere of emotional safety your peace creates, they're receiving an inheritance more valuable than any material possession. Your relationships transform through this legacy of peace. Conversations that once deteriorated into heated conflicts now find new patterns of respectful communication. Dynamics that were stuck in cycles of mutual reactivity now experience possibilities for deeper connection. Like Jesus, whose calm allowed him to respond to provocations with wisdom instead of defensiveness, you discover a new freedom in human interactions. Your work, whatever it may be, is transformed by this legacy. Tasks that were once executed with agitated anxiety are now approached with tranquil concentration. Challenges that provoked panic now generate focused creativity. Like Jesus, who never seemed hurried or frantic, even with crowds pressing with urgent needs, you discover an effectiveness that flows not from stressed hurry, but from centered presence. Your community is influenced by this legacy of peace. In meetings where raised voices compete for attention, your tranquil presence offers a necessary counterpoint. In neighborhoods polarized by political or social divisions, your refusal to be consumed by hostility creates space for genuine dialogue. Like Jesus, who could sit at the table with people of all factions and backgrounds, maintaining both his truth and his calm, you become a bridge in a fragmented world. This legacy of peace transcends even the limits of your mortal life. Like a gardener who plants trees whose fruits will feed generations he will never know, the seeds of peace you plant today will continue to grow and flourish long after your earthly journey is complete. Your children's children, your students' students, the lives touched by those you influenced, the impact multiplies through time in ways you can hardly imagine. Jesus alluded to this multiplying impact when he compared the kingdom of God to a small mustard seed that grows to become a tree where birds make nests, or to leaven that, though small in quantity, leavens the whole batch of dough. Your personal peace, seemingly small and insignificant on the world scale, contains potential for transformation that vastly exceeds its initial proportions. This legacy doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires only that you be authentic in your pursuit. Jesus' own disciples frequently failed to maintain the calm he exemplified. Peter denied his master, Thomas doubted, all fled in the hour of crisis. But through their ongoing relationship with Jesus, they were gradually transformed into such powerful bearers of peace that their influence continues to reverberate 2 millennia later. Similarly, your inevitable failures and relapses don't nullify the legacy of peace you're building. Each time you recognize a moment of reactivity, each time you return to the center of calm after a detour, each time you choose to begin again, after a fall, you're strengthening, not weakening, the testimony of authentic peace. The most powerful legacy doesn't come from someone who never experienced storms, but from someone who learned to find calm amid them. Not from someone who never felt fear, but from someone who advanced even with fear. Not from someone who never fell, but from someone who kept getting up. Like Jesus, whose deepest peace was demonstrated not in the absence of suffering, but in his response to suffering, your most impactful example may come precisely from your most challenging moments. This legacy of peace doesn't require you to become a street preacher or vocal evangelist. Many people who speak eloquently about peace have never truly experienced it, while many who rarely mention the word radiate its reality through their simple presence. As Jesus taught, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven." The most powerful testimony isn't words, but a life lived from the center of genuine peace. As you advance in the journey, carrying this legacy of peace to a turbulent world, remember Jesus' promise: "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." This isn't a fragile peace that depends on favorable circumstances, isn't a superficial peace that exists only in the absence of conflict, isn't a temporary peace that disappears at the first sign of storm. It's a peace rooted in eternal reality, anchored in immutable truths, sustained by a constant presence. This is the legacy you're creating, the inheritance you're building, the gift you're offering to a world that desperately needs authentic peace. Like the small candle that, sharing its flame, doesn't diminish its own light but multiplies illumination, your personal peace becomes a force for transformation that far transcends the limits of your individual life. If you desire to create a legacy of peace that impacts generations, comment, "My peace will change the world around me."